to our next Virginia Women Leading Government Spotlight Series. Today, we are honored to have Miss Erin McLellan join us to talk about her journey as a leading lady in Loudoun County, but also to share with us a little bit more about her life and her pathway to becoming the leading star that she is in her county government. Erin, welcome to today's Spotlight Series. We're so glad to have you. And so for starters, let's just have you introduce who you are. Tell us about your role, your position, and then we're going to roll through some questions for you just so you can share more with the audience about who you are and your path to where you are now. So welcome, Erin.
Great. Well, thank you, Tiffany, and thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today. My name's Erin McLellan. I am an assistant county administrator for Loudoun County Government, which is in Northern Virginia. And I've been in my current role for about a year and a half. Prior to that, I've worked in many different roles in Loudoun County. I've been with Loudoun County for 16 years. And so I've been mostly in the HR, budget, finance world, but I'm now in county administration working with a lot of different departments, mostly internal operations, but also parks and emergency management.
Wonderful. So definitely looking forward to hearing more about this. You have had lots of, opportunities to have different experience with different departments, and which kind of led you to this role now. So really looking forward to digging into your story. So you know what? Let's just start with this leading question. What led you into your career into local government?
Well, in college, I studied history and political science. And like a lot of younger people in college, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that. I love history. I love studying the structures of government and thought that was really great, but I never envisioned myself as a teacher or anything like that. So wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. For a long time, I thought I wanted to be an attorney. And as I got towards the end of my undergraduate studies, I thought, I'm not sure that that's really the right role for me. So I kind of started researching, well, what else can I do with these things that I like? And I came across the, public management. And so I decided to get my MPA. And so that really, I kind of went into that, not necessarily knowing I want to work for local government and really knowing what all that would entail, but it kind of piqued my interest. So I started my graduate studies. And as soon as I started classes, I realized I'm really kind of into this. I really like taking the organizational theory and studying how an organization works and applying that to the things that keep our society running. And so that really piqued my interest. And so I got my MPA and then did an internship with a small, pretty rural county in Alabama, Bibb County. And that's where I really kind of saw my first taste of government in action and got to be part of it. And have been hooked on that ever since, and just really appreciate what this field does for you. It's running a business, but with a purpose that kind of, brings me fulfillment, even though I don't necessarily every day see the fruits of my work with residents. I can tie back to that, which I just love. So that's how I got into government, and I've been doing that for the last 16, almost 17 years.
It's interesting as you kind of begin to just kind of share with us. I think about what you said initially when you were in school, and it sounds like you were just really open to the process, right? Like, even though you had the idea of attorney in mind, but you allowed yourself to lean in when you're like, wait a minute, this is something I'm kind of interested in here. I need to explore that. And, one thing I just wonder, do you feel that, even though, of course, that was college time, do you think that, other ladies who maybe you are already in your own career path, is there still room to be open to leaning into things, right? To opportunity, like, I might want to explore that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that, when I got into local government, I didn't necessarily, a lot of us go into local government and say, I want to be in the top chair, I want to be a CAO. Well, along the way, there are so many routes to get there. And some of those routes you never make it to there because you find the niche
Mm-hmm.
that you really fit into. So, being open to opportunities, and in local government, in most local governments, there's a lot of opportunities because there's always something new and challenging going on. And if you're in a small place, there's a lot of things that every person does. If you're in a big place, there's just a lot of things. And so I have found that over the last 16 years, doors were opened because of just being the person who said, yeah, I'm willing to do that. I don't know anything about it, but I'll go do that. I'll join that team, or I'll work on that project. And it kind of led to, oh, this is cool, or this is something I hadn't envisioned for myself. So definitely being open to opportunities is, I think, critical in just staying excited about where you are and learning and growing.
Yeah, I hear you. And so being open, but also volunteering. It sounds like for
Mm-hmm.
even for projects and initiatives that come open that maybe like, wait a minute, I don't know nothing about this, but send me, I'll go, right? I'm gonna
Yes,
try it,
yes,
because you never know where you're gonna find your niche. So I think those are
yes,
always really good nuggets of wisdom to pass on to people. Like, doesn't matter where you are in your journey. Consider leaning in and being open, right?
yes,
To where the
absolutely.
path may lead you. And well, what do you like the most about what you do?
What I like the most about what I do right now in county administration is that I get to kind of have a broad view of the organization, and I get to kind of help guide things. I'm not the one usually who's actually doing something, but I'm the one who can kind of help guide the team to break through barriers, to figure out who else they need to bring in order to push past a problem or to get the right perspective. One of the things that personally has helped me in my career is valuing my resources and other people who know things that maybe I don't know, not trying to know everything myself. And so I feel like from the seat that I'm in now, I can really help build teams of people that bring together all these different disciplines and viewpoints, and can really fully explore different projects and break through barriers and work together to solve issues, which is really when government is working the best. So I really love that part of my job. The other thing that I really love, now that I've been in a management type position for a while, is just the opportunity to grow young leaders as they start to come through the organization. That is really, really rewarding. And I love seeing a person that I've invested some time in be able to do something that they wanted to do or that they thought they couldn't do, and be able to do it well. And, if I can train somebody to do something I'm doing and they do it better, that's actually the best case scenario. So I also enjoy that part of my job.
Yeah. And Erin, that's big. And the reason I'm going to park here for just a second, training, first of all, the beauty of pouring into someone else and mentoring, right? Is such a wonderful thing. I don't think we have enough mentors in the world to just pour into people. But also that whole process, what you were saying about if you can train someone to do better than you, right? And they end up doing better than you. Some people are afraid of that. So how do you, what advice would you be for people who are afraid, to invest in that someone may show up better than them? What do you think you would say?
Well, first of all, I would say there's almost always enough work to go around for all of us. So, it's short-sighted, I think, to be scared about other people having knowledge, because people having knowledge brings the whole team up, in my opinion, whatever team you're a part of, whether that's a huge organization, a department, a working group. So, but you do have to decide, and you do have to pay attention to yourself, and make sure that you're constantly open to that you're not limiting other people with your fear of losing control or power or something. Usually I have found that the more knowledge you give away, the more a team that you're part of can achieve. And I think I had a executive coach who's one of my mentors, who said to me one time that as a leader, it's actually your job to give away knowledge. And so, I've just always carried that with me. And if you focus on the long view and you focus on what we can all do together, and you focus on the outcomes that you want to see rather than what am I going to need today or tomorrow, you really leave open that possibility for growing and for growing other people. And that is truly rewarding if you can get to that point and feel like, you didn't lose anything, you actually gained something, because you've now got the satisfaction of knowing that you contributed to that other person's success or to the success of the organization.
Indeed, indeed. So part of your leadership and your ability to groom and to pour into and invest in others definitely has come with not only just security in who you are, and maybe for some other women who want to get to your place where you are, it may take some self-introspection and some work to get to that place where you're like, wait a minute, it's okay to give and really build my team, and because it will turn out to be better than just holding and hoarding on to information and resources, right? Because I'm not going to become what we need to be, right?
Right. And start small. Just practice pouring into another person just a little bit and see what comes back to you. You don't have to give away everything on day one, but just start small.
Yeah. And I'll move on to my next question, but I'm just glad we just kind of started with that, because I don't think that we talk about this a lot in our leadership development, the insecurities that hold us back. So I'm glad that you model, this path to continue to pour into others and to do that, because other people hopefully are watching you. So they're like, okay, no, this works. Let me do this for other people too. Right. So this is great. Absolutely. So Erin, tell us a little bit, where did you go to school at, and what did you learn in college? I know we already talked about your at one time interest in being an attorney, and you kind of like, nah, I'm going to go this way. But what are some other things that you feel like maybe in college you learned to just prepare you for where you are today?
Well, I went to the University of Alabama for both my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree. Which I guess is kind of abnormal. Most people go off somewhere to do their master's degree or postgraduate studies, but I stayed in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And that was actually a really good thing for me, because I grew as a person in the same kind of space. And it was just fun to see the growth of my university, but then also myself over that time. So I went to the University of Alabama, and I learned so much there. I mean, I think one of the things that I really learned as part of my studies, I've always been a history buff and valued history and studying history. But when I started studying government and history together, that's a different kind of valuing the past. And I think I've carried a little bit of that with me throughout my career. When we want to innovate and make something better, it's always good to take stock of why you were doing it a certain way before. There are some governments that are we're always going to do this way. This is how we do it. And then there's others who are just innovating everything. And somewhere in between, I think, is thinking of new ideas, but valuing the past and where you've been and where your residents have been. And so I feel like my studies in general in college kind of pointed me towards that. The other thing is something that I mentioned earlier, which is just realizing that I couldn't do everything myself, and that most things are best done by phoning a friend, calling in your resources. So, and not being afraid of that, and not viewing that as any kind of failure or any kind of shortcoming on my part. So, in college, my program of study, we did a lot of teamwork and things like that. And just really learning how to function on a team, and how to fill all the different roles that we need to fill in a team, and be okay with, some of us fill this role and some of us fill this role. And that's how the team comes together. So I feel like I learned a lot of that in college and have carried that on. So yeah, I enjoyed my college years, but I feel like I took away a lot of more collaborative kind of viewpoints after college that I didn't have going in.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you have helped some woman out there get with permission to not be able to do and know it all. Like, because you, right. And I love how you keep saying that. It's so good because some way, somewhere along our path, some of us have received this message that I got to know it all. I can do it all. It's like these super women. But like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
No. It's
yeah,
okay that I don't know. And I need you. I need partners. I need community to teach me. I'm not less than because I don't know. I just need you because you have gifts that, right, that maybe I don't,
that's
right?
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I've definitely struggled with that over the course of my career. And it's important to find people or a person or a mentor who has the ability to also kind of shake you when you're doing that and say, stop
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to be superwoman. How about find out what some of your peers might do or get some advice or take a breath. So, I've had some key people in my career who have also, when I'm getting too intense and I'm getting, taking too much on, to say, Erin, take a step back for a second. That's also really important. So I hope that I can do that now for somebody else, because I have experience trying to do it all myself and trying to be the person who didn't know something and had to learn it all myself so I could prove that I could do something. There's a time to do that, and there's a time to accept that you have a set of gifts and that someone else has a set of different gifts. So I feel like having people around you who can help you on that journey is really important.
Oh, I just love this, Erin. Yes, because I value people too in my circles who can just tap me on the shoulder, like, you know what? It's okay. You don't need to do that. Let them do that. And how many of us need to expand our circles to include those people that can kind of keep you in check to say, hold on, I know you mean
Yes,
well, but
yes,
it's okay, right? I love
yes.
that. That is such an important lesson. So Erin, as we're talking about your path and you learning these amazing lessons early on and building on that as now flourish. Who would you say were like your strongest influences to just maybe those people to kind of help you, stay in check, or maybe some other people who really influenced you to
Yeah.
become who you are?
Yeah, so I would say, early on in life, I had a couple of really good family examples. My mom I have two siblings, so she had three kids. And while we were all in elementary school, she went out and got 2 degrees while working and being a mom. So I watched her do that.
Okay,
And
thank you, Mama. Go ahead.
yeah. And so I watched her do that, and that, she continues to inspire me. And then my grandpa was a farmer by trade, just a simple man, a farmer who was just he had so much ingenuity and just a knack for people and seeing opportunities. And he became a um, very successful salesman in the world for seed that he developed on his farm. And the reason I bring that up is he was just the most humble, simple person, but yet saw opportunities and used the talents that he had to just do something that was simple, but shaped his life and his family's life. So those are two personal examples. And then I've had a couple mentors at Loudoun County that have been really, really great examples for me. And also just filling that role of helping me to move along and giving me opportunities, but also telling me when I need to kind of maybe think about slowing down and pulling back a little bit. And so, I've had a couple of those. Probably the biggest one is our county administrator in Loudoun County, who's been my mentor for like the last 10 years.
Mhm, mhm. Well, sounds like you've had some really solid people to just kind of guide you, along your way. It started with your mom and, the sacrifice and her commitment to her goals while raising her family and,
Yeah.
other families. So that's really something to have that foundation. And it sounds like you
Mhm.
still have a solid support circle too of mentors. So yeah. Now, if we were to ask these same people or maybe some other people in your circle, how would they describe you? What do you think people would say about Miss Erin?
Well, I think that so I'm a pretty introverted person who has learned to flex my style a little bit. So I would say people generally uh, find me kind of contemplative. I think a lot, and you can tell I'm thinking. I think they would say I'm a good listener because of that. But I'm also a problem solver. So I'm kind of a doer, and that can get me in trouble too when I try to do too much. But I think I can listen and then solve problems, and that's one of the skills that I have that I hope other people appreciate.
Uh-huh. Well, being a contemplative, like, right. I mean, I feel like those kind of go hand in hand. You have some pretty, serious responsibilities. And I think, for you to sit and just be that person, like, let me think it through and be ready to solve problems. That makes sense. And so it sounds like that's what people would say about you, and especially in the role that you do in Loudoun County. So, okay. And what would you say is something, it could be with your career or just in life in general, what do you think you are the most proud of accomplishing?
I think I would probably have to go back to the development and the mentoring of a couple of key staff members that I've had the great privilege of working with over the last several years. Bringing someone into the organization and teaching them and watching them grow. And one of these people is now doing the job that I used to do. And, she's killing it. And, it's that's just so rewarding. And I feel like that's a huge accomplishment that, I kind of just have for myself that her success is maybe in small part was influenced by me, which I'm really proud of.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Erin, I think we can add another trait to your list of giving, right? Because, some people, when they talk about accomplishments in life, they, want to brag about it could be material things or, whatever. But for you, to say that a proud moment is to pour into someone, to mentor
Yes.
and watch that person, that already says a lot about who you are. So I think there's some other qualities we'll add. And yes, we bragging on you today.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
No, but I really, again, want to harp on just how important that mentoring, piece is. And you're right. She probably would not, whoever that young lady is, probably would not be successful without you at least guiding her. And we all need that. We all need someone to show us, the way forward, at least to kind of help us to become the best that we can be. So I appreciate that. So as you're doing this amazing work, leading the way in Loudoun County, mentoring, what helps you stay inspired? Do you have a quote? Do you, have something that you lean on that keeps you inspired?
Yeah. Um, there are so many quotes that I love, and so many people that I love. And of course, I'm drawn to historical figures. So one of my favorite historical figures is Winston Churchill,
Hmm.
just because of his kind of straightforward tenacity. And one of his quotes is, "You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks." And what
Okay, I
that
like
means to
that.
me, yeah. So what that means to me is there's a lot of noise out there, and you have to kind of know what your purpose is and where you want to go. And that can be generally or real specific, but kind of know what you're trying to do in your space and kind of tune out some of the noise, and not get distracted by the expectations of others. And especially, in this day and age, we have constant noise coming at us from every direction, and opinions. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone's opinion is on social media and everywhere else. And as public officials, we often get criticized from every direction for every single decision that the government makes. And so, you kind of just, you have to know why you're doing what you're doing, and allow some feedback, but then be able to tune out the feedback that's not helpful or important or moving you along. So I come back to that sometimes when it's like, wow, there's just too many opinions of what I should be doing, but I know what I should be doing. So I just love that quote.
I like that quote too. And let me just say, so many opinions and people feeling like they need to share all of their opinions, especially in
Yes.
the social media world. Like you probably didn't have to share that, right? I'm sure you
Right.
question that a lot. But yeah, filtering in, it seems like in your development and something we all have to learn. I battle with that too, of filtering in what feedback is useful and helpful, and how to filter out that stuff is just negative and very hurtful.
Right.
But it sounds like you maybe have mastered it, or working on it, because in your leadership role.
It's a constant,
Yeah.
it's a constant struggle every day. Some days are easier than others, but it's just something, if you stay focused on why you're doing what you're doing, and kind of a view of where you're trying to get to, or what you're trying to accomplish, or what outcome you're trying to produce. And then you kind of have in your head some grounding, so that when feedback comes your way, you can tell whether it's feedback that deserves your attention or not, because most of it, quite honestly, doesn't deserve your attention. And I think as women, a lot of times we take in too much feedback. Everybody has an opinion on how you should balance your kids and your work, or your family obligations, or whether you should be a lady boss out there working 60 hours a week, and or whether you should be a stay-at-home mom, or somewhere in between. And everyone is going to have an opinion or a viewpoint of what they think you should be doing, but it's important to just kind of know who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And so at work, having a purpose and understanding why I come to work every day, and what importance that plays in my life, and then tuning out the other stuff. But it's every day having to reset that and say, okay, I have a purpose today. So that's how I try to go forward.
So, okay, in the midst of pouring into others for mentoring and staying true to yourself, so that sounds like you have some self-care time in the mix, and balancing a really, I can say probably demanding job. You juggle a lot. What are you going to do for fun? Tell us about some hobbies, because like we believe at VWLG in balance, right?
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about hobbies you have.
So being an introvert, a lot of my hobbies are introverted hobbies. I run, not very well and not very fast, but it gets the juices flowing. I like to read, and I'm an avid journaler. So writing down my thoughts every day, writing down quotes I hear, just things that it just kind of makes me appreciate either what's happening or what I've read or something like that, to write it down. So I write a lot. And then, I have two active kids, one of whom is a complete sports nut. So I spend a lot of time at softball fields watching her play. So just, kind of doing what my kids are doing. Those are all things that I try to separate from work, and do those things as much as possible.
Oh, that's cool. Of course, got to get the babies, take care of the kids in the mix of it all. But glad that you have running. And listen, no judgment on running, because I'm like, listen, you probably run much better than me. I'm like, I'll stick to walking. So it's all good.
As long as we're out there.
You know what I'm saying? Getting some steps in. But one thing I want to ask you about your hobbies, which one would you say really fills your cup? Like, when our energy can be depleted by every day, what is your main go-to thing that fills you up, re-energizes you?
I would say reading does that. And for different moods, I read different things. But sometimes you just need to kind of lose yourself in a book or in a story. And I really like that. And then, I usually feel pretty refreshed after that.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, what are you currently reading?
Well, I have two books going at the moment, which is unusual for me because I'm usually a one book at a time kind of person. But I'm reading a book called Unashamed by a Christian author named Christine Kane. And that's really about just living out your purpose unapologetically, which I think is really cool. So I'm in the middle of that. And then I'm also reading a book called The Catalyst by Jonah Berger. And this is a book about change, being a change catalyst. And this is a book that all of the department directors and executives in our organization are reading together right now, which is really cool. So I'm just at the beginning of that book, but it's all about how to affect change without forcing it, which I think is really neat. So I love reading about organizational theory and that kind of thing and leadership. So that's my current leadership reading.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of cool. All of you all are reading it together. So you can kind of like probably have discussion and think about how to bring about change. I like that. That's really cool. So as we've kind of looked at what you do for fun and what fills your cup, which we all know reading is your go-to, and you're balancing so much. If we go back and we look at your 20-year-old self, like you are in the midst of maybe college and just kind of still finding your way and trying to figure this thing called life out, which we may still try to figure that out at 30 and 40s, let's just leave that there. What advice would you give to that 20-year-old self as you were preparing to enter more of the world?
I would say what I would tell my younger self is don't plan yourself out of opportunities. So, I'm very much a planner, kind of have a goal in mind. And maybe if I don't have distinct steps to get there, I'm pretty certain how things are going to go down. And in the midst of that, kind of like I said, with what I've learned working at Loudoun County, opportunities will present themselves that may not be anything that you thought you would like, or that you thought you would be good at, or that you thought you could contribute to, but they open doors. And sometimes if in your mind you have rigidly planned something out, you can actually miss out on opportunities just because your mind isn't open. You're not looking for opportunities. So me being a very kind of structured person, I have a tendency to do that. So I've learned over time that I need to it's good to have a plan, and it's good to have a way to execute the plan, but always kind of be looking around on the edges for, is there something else there that maybe I should pay attention to? A lot of great opportunities have come my way that, I would not have written down on a piece of paper, I want to do this thing. But they did. And then when I did them, I may not have said that's the greatest thing ever, but it led to something really cool, or something like that. So I think just, telling my younger self to be a little more open and not so rigid in what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that's what we start off talking about, just the ability to be open. And even I know we're talking about your 20-year-old self, and maybe there's some young women in our audience who are listening, like, be open to the process. But no matter what age, hopefully that same advice can be applied. Be open and listen and be in tune with what may be calling to you, right? And even times when we may feel afraid to try something, or something's really on our heart, like you should, consider this, just go ahead and lean into that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and see where it leads you. So a few more questions, Erin, and we are going to wrap up. It's just been a pleasure just talking and learning this story. So let's talk about some challenging times. Like, what was a challenging time for you during your career, and how did you overcome that, and share some lessons learned as well?
So early on in my career, I worked in HR for a while and found out rather quickly that I just wasn't well suited for HR work, specifically employee relations work and things like that. I could do it, but it was not where I found kind of joy in work. And I just didn't really love that work. And that was a challenging time because, I wasn't quite sure where to go from there. But this is an example of being open to opportunities. I got a call one day from my department director. HR was part of a larger department that had finance and budget and some other things in it. And he said, we've had trouble filling one of our budget positions, and your name came up as someone who might want to move over and start in the budget office. And, I didn't know anything about budgeting. I had not worked in budget. And this was a senior budget analyst position. And after I kind of said, "Are you sure?" Then I was like, "Oh, okay." And that one decision to take that opportunity that wasn't anything I had done before has basically set a course for my career up until now, which has since that point all been in budget and finance. And that's where I found, some of my passion for what I do in that office. And so it was, that was a really challenging time because I could have just said, I'm too worried to take that position. But, I did it and soaked up every little thing I could learn. So I went into it with, I know how to apply the skills that I have from managing an HR portfolio to managing the budget portfolio, but I know nothing else. And then I just absorbed knowledge from every one of my coworkers, everyone that I could talk to. I just absorbed knowledge. And that was one of the best decisions I ever made, was to say yes to that opportunity.
As you're talking, I was thinking about how oftentimes, and I don't want to just limit to women, but I'll just say for now, people, but I really want to say women, how we look at job, so whether it came from someone who recommended you, or we look at job descriptions, because I know I'm guilty. And it's like, it could be an advanced title. It could have some job functions that you're like, I can't do that. Like, I don't know how to do that. Right. But what you're saying is like, you know what? I was nominated. You could have this. It's his choice. Here's choice. You could say, I really can't do that. I don't have what it takes. Right. And it goes to that thing that I'm not enough. However, you decide to say, you know what, I'm just going to step into this and trust that I will learn and become and do, right? And I'm like, in these moments, in these choices, it kind of goes back to us being open. That even though something seems advanced or seems completely out of our, realm, let's just try it anyway. That's what it sounds like our theme of today is, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think also in that example, you said something important, which is, someone reached out to me and said, we think you can do this. And so it would be totally ridiculous for me to then let my self-conscious brain take over and say, oh, I'm not sure if I can do this. The boss said, I think you can do this. Do you want to do it? And sometimes I think as women, we do that where we say, well, I don't have every single qualification to do this. And so I'm not sure. And sometimes it is literally just do it, just jump in and learn and trust that you can learn. Someone that I recently met that I really respect, Susan Thorpe, who is a county administrator in Yuma County, Arizona. I heard her say, to answer a question, what do you think is the biggest barrier to women moving into executive roles in county government? She said they doubt themselves. And so someone said, well, what's your advice? And she said, just do it. Whatever the opportunity is, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. And so, sometimes you've got to just do it. And you're either going to find out that it's not the right thing and you'll go somewhere else or in a different direction, or it's going to open up a new possibility and you'll be like, well, why did I ever doubt that? Which was kind of what I did.
But however, you still you move forward. You're like, all right, I'm taking this position. Yes. I'm turning that conscious brain off. I am just going to just do it. Okay. So that is awesome. Listen, you are a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. And I hope our viewers will soak this in. I am, because I'm like, okay, I need to, put some of this knowledge into practice too. But one thing I want to say as we just prepare to wrap up a bit, last question here, what would be anything else pressing, from our conversation today or just from your leadership journey that you would want to share with others as we just kind of have some closing thoughts here about women, again, who are in various stages of their journey, whether they are just starting out or maybe we have some listening who are executives. What are some advice that you would have?
Well, I'm gonna beat the same drum again. I think just being open to opportunities, being the person who's willing to say, "Oh, I'll do that," or "That sounds kind of interesting," or "I don't know about that, but I want to learn." That has opened so many doors for me. Now, a caveat to that is you also don't have to take on everything. So you can quickly turn into the person who says yes to everything. So you need to be conscious of what you can physically and like mentally what you can take on. But I think for a lot of us, we doubt ourselves a little too much, and we just miss some of those small opportunities. And sometimes they're really small, and they can turn into something bigger. So I would just say, don't be afraid of opportunities. Don't be afraid to say yes. Say no when you need to, but don't be afraid. And then the other thing is, when you get into a situation where you feel like you don't know what you're doing and you feel like maybe you're failing or something, stop, take a breath, call somebody you trust, set up those mentors for yourself so that you have somebody to go to who can kind of speak some truth back to you and help you get out of your own head. I know, I'll just say this to all the introverts out there. I feel you. I spend a lot of time in my head, and that can be good sometimes, but it can also be destructive because it can keep you with a skewed view of yourself or what's going on. And so, I would just say, trust yourself, take some risks, and, see what happens. And find people that you think are doing what you want to do, who emulate the way you want to work, the qualities that you like. Find those people and watch what they're doing, and try to find opportunities and try to learn and grow. And and the other thing is, I'll just say to people who are mid-career, like myself, you can change also. If you need a change, you can make a change. And that's something that, we can also feel like we're on a path and we're kind of locked in. I'm kind of finding out you're never locked in. You can always do something a little different. And even if it's a little scary. And so I would just say, be open to opportunities wherever you are in your career.
Oh, Erin, sage advice here. And I love that, because I think sometimes we feel where we are, especially mid-career, like, wait, I'm locked in. I don't know how to even change trajectories in life. But you know what? Just by you sharing, and I think also giving people permission, it's okay. And you can change, and you can go another way, and you can be open and listen to what speaks to your heart so much. This is so good. Thank you, Erin. You are wonderful. And we appreciate you for your service and your role and as a public official, and really also the mentoring and pouring into others. And thank you for joining us today. And I just hope all of our listeners out there, that we just hope that there is something said today that you will take and you will allow it to plant within you, and hopefully you will apply whatever it is that you heard today to help you in your journey to being a dynamic leading lady. So on behalf of all of us at VWLG, we are grateful for you. Stay tuned for the next Spotlight series. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.